Hey everybody, it's John Clark from privatepracticeworkshop.com, and today I'm teaching you how to hire the right clinicians for your group private practice. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so by the end of this video, you're gonna walk away with all of my most important tips and tricks when it comes to hiring for your group practice. Let's get right into it. So let's start with recruiting. Recruiting tends to be one of the hardest parts of the hiring process because you're usually just kind of starting fresh and you need to get the word out about the fact that you have a new opening within your group practice. My recommendation for this is to always start with who you already know. Personally, all of my best hires have come from referrals. So whether that's if you already have clinicians in your group practice, letting them know that, hey, we're hiring or we're looking for this particular kind of candidate, and have them help you put the word out. You can also start by reaching out to other contacts, like other group practice owners, university professors I find can be really good sources. And when you reach out to people like that, especially if it's a supervisor of an internship site or a graduate program or something like that, I always just ask, hey, who's your absolute best student? Basically, who is the star of this graduating class? And a lot of times if you ask, they'll actually tell you. Now, as part of your initial interview, I think it's really important to first just start with phone screenings. This is gonna save you a lot of time and energy from having to coordinate people coming in and out of the office, etc. And it's just a lot less stressful for both parties. So I suggest that you have a preliminary set of questions that last about 15 or 20 minutes on the phone to get to know the candidate and just to start feeling out, is this a person that would be a good fit even just to come in for a real interview or what is going to be the second interview in this process. In between the first interview and the second interview, which will be in person, I highly recommend you send out something called the DISC profile, D-I-S-C. The DISC profile, which you can get, I think you can just Google Tony Robbins DISC assessment and it'll show up. You can get it for free. But the DISC profile is kind of a blend of a personality assessment and a career assessment, but it's extremely helpful for understanding what kind of person is this applicant, what kind of professional are they, how do they work, how are they best supervised, how do you best help them achieve results within your company, and it just gives you a really, really nice set of information when it comes to better understanding this potential candidate. Next, you bring them in for the second interview or the in-person interview. In this interview, you want to ask them as many detailed questions as possible. You really don't want to hold back here. You really want to grill them as much as you can. You want to ask them things like, how have they dealt with an extremely difficult case before? Or in our case, how have they dealt with an intense case of transference or counter-transference? Or are there any clients that you feel like you can't work with, or particularly hard for you personally to work with? You also want to ask them how they've dealt with clients who are in crisis. I think their ability to handle stress and to make decisions under pressure as a clinician is extremely important. If you have current clinicians, you want to leverage those clinicians to help you make a decision, especially if you have a more experienced clinician on staff or just a clinician who's been at your practice the longest. I highly recommend that you loop them into the process to help you screen this person, interview this person, and ultimately to help you make the right decision. Next, we've got two kinds of hires that you should know about: a complementary hire or a parallel hire. A complementary hire is someone who's different from your current clinicians or different from the clinician maybe that you just hired. So if you just hired a young male who only works with couples, then you might hire a complementary hire as an older female clinician who also works with young children. On the other hand, if you want to make a parallel hire, you're going to hire someone who's very similar to who you already have in your practice. A lot of this has to do with what's already working in your practice, the demands of your market, how your marketing is directed, etc. My next tip is you have to give yourself an out. This is extremely important, but a lot of times people can kind of be anyone during an interview, so you want to make sure you give yourself an out. That's why I recommend always starting new clinicians with a probationary period of 60 to 90 days. If you do this, it basically says we're gonna have you aboard, we're gonna get you started, we're gonna build up your caseload, etc. But it gives us an out and it gives them an out if it's not a good fit. Finally, you have to think very critically about your onboarding process. So in other words, your orientation process. Now, you want to automate parts of this, so having pre-recorded videos that explain how to use your EHR or the systems of your practice, etc. But you also want your onboarding process to be a very high-touch process where you're spending a lot of time with this candidate early on to make sure they're totally set up for success. Your onboarding process should really inspire confidence in your new clinician that you and your practice really have your stuff together and know how to create an amazing experience for this new employee. In order to have a stellar onboarding process, a company really needs to get clear on their mission, vision, and values of the company. Your mission is basically the big impact that you want to have as a company. Your vision is basically how you're going to get there over the next 1, 5, and even 10 years. And then your values are basically what do you believe as a company. Those values are going to help you drive everything forward when it comes to your mission and your vision. If you don't already have a mission, vision, or values, that's totally okay. You can just simply start now. Right after watching this video, you can create a Word document and just take your first stab at it and do the best you can. Your mission, vision, and values should evolve along with you. Now I want to know what tips and tricks you have for hiring the right clinician for your group practice owner. Or if you are a clinician in a group practice, what's your experience been like in being recruited, interviewed, hired, and onboarded into a group practice? Let us know in the comments below. We really want to hear what's worked for you, what hasn't, what are your best tips and tricks, and we look forward to seeing your comments below. If you want help with any of this stuff, well, all you have to do is head to privatepracticeworkshop.com to work with us. Again, that's privatepracticeworkshop.com. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, thanks again for checking out the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Continue watching other videos in our channel, and we look forward to talking to you really soon.